Do you live in a world filled with corporate data? Are you plagued by siloed departments? Are your lackluster growth strategies demolishing your chances for success? Are you held captive by the evil menace, Lord Lack? Lack of time, lack of strategy, and lack of the most important and powerful tool in your superhero tool belt, knowledge. Never fear, HubHeroes. Get ready to don your cape and mask, move into action, and become the Hub Hero your organization needs. Tune in each week to join the League of Extraordinary Inbound Heroes as we help you educate, empower, and execute. HubHeroes, it's time to unite and activate your powers.
Welcome back, everybody.
Run it back.
Run it again. Circle it.
Let's play that beautiful bean footage one more time.
We're good. No more bean footage.
So,
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know why I'm blurry, guys. I don't know. Maybe it's a metaphor. Maybe it's because I am in a sea of confusion right now because we're not talking about loop marketing this week.
Do you want to? Would that make you feel better?
No.
Let's do it.
No.
No.
Chad, be quiet.
Okay.
No.
Nah. Oh, okay.
I do have a lot of feelings about Amplify, but we're going to move on from that. That's for me and my therapist and God, okay? So we're not talking about loop marketing because up is down, left is right, tea is coffee, Real Housewives is an actual TV show. I don't know.
Wow.
But I am excited about where we are going today.
Yeah.
Because, George, last week when we emerged the other side of our massive loop marketing conversation, we were talking about where do we want to go next.
Yeah.
You said something that was fascinating to me and then I also deeply related to. You said, I can't tell you the number of times I've heard people talk about Customer Agent and Breeze as the same thing in HubSpot, and they are not. And most folks don't even know there's a Breeze Assistant app. And at first I was nodding along like, yeah, oh my God. Why don't they know that? Those lessers, those peasants.
Oops.
And then I've got to be honest, I'm also one of those people. I know they are separate things, but what do they do separately?
Yeah.
Unclear, not sure. And I think that's due in part to the fact that HubSpot has gotten crazy complicated, not just in the past 2 years, but like if you're anything like the folks on this little podcast, Shenaniganry, like we've been using HubSpot for over 10 years and it is not the same marketing automation ecosystem that we started with.
No.
So if you're today years old, hearing about Breeze or Customer Agent or all of those different things, or you've heard about them and you would just really love nobody to ask you any sort of authoritative questions about them, this conversation is for you.
Yeah.
So George, I want to kick it over to you. Let's start. Let's table set a bit here, okay?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So let me just say a couple things and then you can table set because I'm sure there was supposed to be a question there, but I started to talk before the question came in. And like, listen, my brain, you put me in a direction of like, ladies and gentlemen, this is not your grandpappy's HubSpot. Like I look at where we're at. I look at what we can do. I look at all the tools. Like earlier today, I was on the customer platform podcast that I do where we talk about HubSpot updates. And I was like, hey, you remember when like Service Hub was the orange haired stepchild? And like now all of a sudden there's all of these like features and things that are happening. And do you remember when like we used to have conversations around how, I'm still going to use my ChatGPT, my Claude, my XYZ because it's just not there yet. Do you remember the day when it's like, man, if you're not like, I can't imagine. I said this last week. I can't imagine even attempting if this today was my HubSpot day one. Like it is mind blowing to me to think about like, somebody today purchases HubSpot, looks at a marketer that has been there just doing their marketing thing or sales reps just doing their sales thing. Is like, hey guys and gals, we bought HubSpot. Here you go. And it's like, oh my God. Like, yeah.
Good luck. Have fun.
Oh my. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where you put my brain immediately is like this kind of idea of like, it has become, I'll say complex, but not in a bad way. It's still very easy to use. It's easy to learn. Things are understandable, but there's just so many things. And so how do all of those things fit together? And when do you know what?
Dictionary is technically understandable, but it's also 1,000 pages long.
Yeah. So this gets us to today's conversation, right? Like there's AI in HubSpot and there's customer agent and there's Breeze. And what does that mean? Okay. So now I'm sure you had a question you wanted to ask me.
Can we define those things or try or attempt? I was thinking we do this, George. I'm going to try to do my best. To define it. And then Chad and George, you keep me honest.
Okay. Yeah.
So which are the ones we want to define? I'd say Breeze in general.
Yep.
Customer agent, Breeze assistant.
That's
it.
That's all three. Let's talk about right. We'll put it in these 3 boxes or containers.
Yeah, 3 buckets.
Customer agent, Breeze general, Breeze custom assistants. Or agents.
Okay, cool.
What about Breeze agents?
That's what I'm saying. Agents, custom agents, or custom.
But assistants is different.
Okay. So I guess that's
you
different.
Said
See, here we go.
Was
this is the problem.
Agent.
This is the problem.
I want everyone to stop speaking. I literally have. This is the first question.
Yeah.
With these buckets.
Okay. So hang on. So customer agent, Breeze general. Okay. Breeze custom assistants and Breeze agents. Those are the 4 boxes. Those are the containers that we're going to play. Yes. See, this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Those are the containers we're playing in today.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do my best to define this. Okay.
Bucket us up.
Let's start with just Breeze in general.
Yeah.
Right. For anyone wondering, the way that...
Check up.
No, we need you. We need you.
You're good.
This is going to be like herding
Max,
squirrels,
you literally
cats,
took over the show.
cattle, a tornado.
We're having AI hallucinations, just like Breeze.
Yeah. Well, wasn't the question to define this stuff?
This
or
coffee?
No,
I literally hadn't even given you the.
She hasn't asked the question.
Hold on. Sorry, Liz. I thought that was the question you were giving us. That's my bad.
George interrupted me before the first question.
Yeah, it's like
you're just working ahead on the test.
It's like herding tornadoes today. Okay, all right. Back to you, Liz.
Okay, guys. So what's the simple mental model people need to keep in mind here about what is what and what does what with your 4 buckets?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got your customer agent. You got your Breeze agent. You got your Breeze assistant. You got your custom assistants. What the heck is what and why?
What a great question. Max, do you want to try to unpack that?
4 buckets?
All right. Here's how I understand it. Breeze is one, the overarching general brand name of HubSpot's AI at a base level. But also when you start seeing like the enrichment stuff, right? So like filling your records with data and like all this other kind of stuff. That's all Breeze. Customer agent is a very special AI that is meant to handle things on like the customer service side, right? So it can do email, it can do live chat, it can do phone now, I believe. It can talk to you through your IVR, which is really sweet. But you can train it on all things that a customer service agent would really kind of need to know. And so it can act as that like first line of defense, another heat shield, if you will, for your human sales reps to try to get problems solved quickly and get people to the right people at the right time. That's customer agent. Now I feel like I'm kind of going off an old definition here in terms of the difference between assistants and agents. All right. I think at the beginning, folks were describing agents as these little AI tools you can build that actually do stuff for you, right? Such as like creating content or doing research or, completing some type of task. And then there is assistants. And the way that I was kind of explained assistants at the beginning is that like there are things that like help you do your job, right? So like there are these little like AI bots that you could invoke through Breeze Chat that will like give you answers around certain things that it's trained on.
Yeah.
However, I've found that you can actually get those assistants to do things.
Oh yeah.
as well.
Without a doubt.
So I personally am really struggling to draw the clear line between an agent and an assistant.
Well, maybe we name it different. Maybe they are agents, just to keep this simple, but it's like custom agent versus an agent in the marketplace. Because
now I'm more confused.
Because there are agents that you can invoke that have already been built for you. And the reason I'm calling it an assistant is because what we build, and it could be considered maybe an agent, is we build for people using knowledge vaults and the Breeze assistant capability to have custom Breeze. And I'll show the screen. I'll show this. But can I just back up for a second and say, Max, you did a really good job. But immediately the first words out of your mouth made me realize that we're off the rails already, because you mentioned a fifth bucket. You mentioned intelligence.
Marketing 2.0, guys.
You mentioned enrichment and intelligence, which I didn't even bring up in the first four buckets. So yes, Breeze is the general name, but then there are these subsectors of that, because customer agent could be considered part of Breeze, because I'm sure that there's pieces that it's leveraging. But here's what I want to make sure that I get this out there, and then I'm going to shut up and let Chad go. I want to make sure that at least one thing we say up front is customer agent is outward facing for the humans that you're helping. And when we talk about Breeze AI, whether it's assistants or agents, it's inside of HubSpot, helping you, the human, the HubSpot user or users, to do things. So we have to at least throw that differentiator at customer agent, external, Breeze assistant agents, whatever, internal. Chad, take a stab at layering on top of or in conjunction with what Max said.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to think about just the overall Breeze bucket as a whole is it's any of the AI powered features inside of HubSpot, regardless of what they are. So anything that could possibly consume credits either now or in the future. Not all Breeze things will consume credits. Like, for example, regular old enrichment just doesn't consume credits anymore, from my understanding. That used to, but now it's free. So things like that, like basically anything that's AI powered in HubSpot, you could just consider they're putting that under the Breeze bucket. That's it. Everything AI. And assistants are chat based. Like you pull them open in the chat pane or in the mobile app, and assistants are intended to be an ordered, structured prompt driving your conversation, and you can add knowledge. But unfortunately, with the regular old assistants, not necessarily extra tools outside of web search at the moment. Like you can add web search, you can add files. But if it's just I want a specific assistant to do a specific thing, you got a couple prompts, you got some files, it can search the web, it can search your HubSpot records. That's what it can do. But it has basically the regular power that chatting with your regular old Breeze AI chat inside of HubSpot has. So whatever it has access to. Now, that thing can do quite a bit, believe it or not. So it does have a lot of capabilities, but you can't, at least in the configuration of Assistant, specify, I want it to or don't want it to have these tools, for example. But a Breeze agent has a lot more prompt configurability and is not intended to be run inside of the chat pane, but is intended to be run inside of the agent execution area. So there's like a specific page where the agents execute outside of customer agent, which you kind of like sick it on some channels and it handles those channels, right? But most of the agents are intended to be run in the agent execution area under the Breeze main nav area. And those, you could give it specific tools. You could give it extra layers of prompting and instructions. And if you take a look at some of the beta ones or the HubSpot ones that exist, those agents have some pretty good example prompts of what you might want to get your Breeze agent to do. And it's intended to run a little bit more long form and a little bit less conversational. Give it some specific things. It may ask you for some specific data prior to getting started, depending on how you've configured it. And it's designed to give an ordered output. basically.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a little bit less conversational. And then let's see, what was the last bucket there? Custom assistance. I think we already went on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me
then Studio. So they have the new dashboards in Studio, which are cool.
Yeah, let me unpack a couple of things that you just said, and then Liz, I'm going to get back to you for another question. But I need to unpack a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The first thing that I want to unpack that everybody would pay attention to, again, if this is your day 1, this is your day 50, it might be your 5th year and you're just like haven't been adopting HubSpot's AI and all that stuff. I want you to realize, one, you do have a place that you can go where is usage and limits under your billing area that you can see that where you can purchase HubSpot credits, where you see that you get a monthly allowance of HubSpot credits. Yours may differ than what you see on my screen as far as the amount that you get per month. But at the end of the day, you're going to see your usage per month, the credits that have been invoked, and you can also see where these credits are going. So what is using what? Okay, where does this get, air quotes, money get spent? And then you can see historical usage over time. So again, a little bit of dashboards around credit, and you can even see usage log here. Okay, so I don't want you to think that this is a black box. I don't think that I don't want you to think that you're going into this blind, because one of the things that I've heard from people is like, well, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to turn something on and then all of a sudden I'm going to get this massive bill. And like, there are safeguards that you can put in to like, hey, I'm willing to pay for these additional credits, or when my credits are out, I want it to end. But again, visually being able to see where they're going, what's happening. And if there's a monster in the room, you can turn the monster in the room off or set some rules around it in the future. Second thing I want to unpack is the marketplace. There is, if you go Breeze in the main nav and marketplace, there's a marketplace. These are Breeze agents that are already built, right? So like if you're looking for video clip search agent or a brand assistant or an ICP assistant, or you can just go through this. I'm not going to read all of these, but there are these agents that are pre-built that you can invoke into your HubSpot portal. So I just want you to know that the beginning places that you may start is, let me go look at the Breeze agent marketplace and see if there's something that can save me or a team member time. And then the second place you may go is like, let me see if I can build something that's more specific to us, but then understand the credits that may be used if you go in the customer agent direction, or if you go into enrichment direction, or if you go into the, hey, I created this custom Breeze assistant and I'm going to invoke it in a HubSpot workflow to do something type system. So I'll pause there. And then Liz, like, what's the next question where you want us to head?
Sorry in advance, Liz, but I just wanted to touch on one more thing.
There we go. Go ahead, Chad.
Chad, it's okay. You were defending me earlier. You get a pass.
Okay, thanks. Good. I'm glad. I'm earned some good noodle stars. Okay, so with credits, there's not only like Breeze isn't the only thing that can use credits. Like some things that aren't AI powered, like external data syncs, can utilize credits as well. But like George was showing in the dashboard, they give you a summary of every single thing that uses any credits, how much it's using, what days it was using. So you could look at it on like a daily or a weekly basis. So you really do have a lot of flexibility to understand that. But man, is some things that they built in things like Data Studio, being able to sync to an external Google Sheet on a periodic time, like without having to create some funky integration, just your data set, you choose certain columns to go out. That is so helpful depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish, for certain use cases. So anyway, credits are not only Breeze, but Breeze can use credits depending on what it is. So just wanted to make a point of clarification.
Good point.
Is it my turn now?
It is.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh,
sorry.
Guys, don't be sorry. This is fascinating. So, I gotta be honest, followed a lot of that. Also found myself kind of thinking in circles a little bit.
Okay.
So what are the practical use cases? Can we talk through each of those between 5 and 7 buckets as we have expanded them? Like, what is the use case for each? Like, practical examples.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I can talk about it.
Let's do this. Let's start with customer agent first.
Yeah. So customer agent. So, I mean, the big thing with customer agent, right, is adding this layer of autonomy, if you will, to the first sort of interactions that someone has, like with your support team, right? So, your customer agent can understand a whole bunch of different content you feed into it, such as your knowledge base, a lot of your internal ticketing information, because like you got to remember, not only do you have like your written knowledge base articles, it also has a treasure trove of information just by looking at your previous tickets and how you've solved problems and things like that, right? And it gives you sort of this ability to solve problems before they actually get to a human being, right? You can almost think about it like before this, like knowledge base kind of solved for it, right? But like you still had to like search through the knowledge base, and a lot of people just wanted to talk to somebody, right? So this serves as like a really cool sort of like middle ground where someone is basically at the end of the day, they're interacting with your knowledge base when you really think about it, but they're doing it in a way that feels like they're communicating with somebody, and it might be easier for them to ask questions and then have that thing be able to intelligently find an answer for them, right? But what's really, really neat about customer agent is customer agent, and when we say things like the knowledge base agent and stuff like that, those
separate
work sort of hand in hand together, but they're kind of like separate. Yeah. So like a really cool thing that the customer agent will do is it'll keep track of like questions it doesn't know the answer to, right? So like when it's finding itself having to like hand people off to humans or not knowing the answers to questions, right? It collaborates with this thing called the knowledge base agent, which actually gives you, a sort of like suggestions of knowledge gaps you need to fill with your knowledge base, right? So like articles that you should be writing, like additional information you should have in there, right? And what it'll do is it also suggests that content based on answers it finds, looking at like your historic tickets and stuff like that, right? So it's a really cool way to kind of like expand and make interactive, not only the knowledge-based content that you have that's existing, but also just like the past interactions that your support people have had with folks as they've been helping them, right? And again, there's multiple ways to deploy the customer agent. They can talk to people over live chat. They can talk to people over email. They can talk to people over phone, right? So again, think of it as like a new sort of like interactive layer and heat shield to your human beings, right? So they can focus on the really, really tough issues, right? While giving your customers a more friendly and interactive way to get the answers that they need before they have to go to a real life person.
Yep. Chad, anything?
Does that help, Liz?
Chad, anything you would add to that?
I mean, I felt like that was a pretty good mechanism, description there. I think one of the interesting things is like, too, when you're looking at agent goals, you would think the customer agent could be purely and only support related, but they're starting to like blend the two. It's just the fact that the customer agent so far is the one that's designed to interact with humans on your behalf at the moment. And they do have like what's your lead qualification settings if you want to try and generate leads? So that is a thing that's in there. They're starting in the middle of some sort of blend of moving this into like, they do have a prospecting agent that exists, right? That's its own thing.
Different,
you can apply that to specific contacts, like, I want to carpet bomb these 12 people or whatever, or these 100 people.
It's actually pretty cool. We might do here's the thing. We might do a whole episode on like the knowledge base agent. We might do a whole episode on the prospecting agent. Because again, right now, all of a sudden we're box 6, box 7. Yeah. Okay. So
yeah. Good. Yeah, I guess the main thing I was trying to say is like, just because somebody is in a support queue doesn't mean that they don't have needs for other things that you could possibly have to offer. And that's why they're adding that generate leads section. Like, hey, if somebody's in support and they meet these extra criteria, maybe it would make sense to offer XYZ if you want the agent to do that on your behalf. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was about the only other thing I would add.
So a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen, and then Liz, we're going to kick it back to you in a second. So I want everybody to realize, like, I'm sharing my screen, and so what it looks like, because I said external, customer agent external. If I start to ask or engage with the customer agent, notice I can give it like a couple starter questions that people might actually want to ask to engage with it. But I can come in here. I'm not going to, because just a couple different reasons, but I can come in here and I can start to have a conversation with this chat bot, but it's not a chat bot. It's customer agent powered in the background. And what I want everybody to realize is when you create the customer agent, you're going to have this whole area for your customer agent. And really the powerful place is manage. And I want you to understand how far you can go with this based on things that have happened recently in updates. And so first of all, you have your agent identity, right? And so in my case, I'm showing you Sidekick. His personality is casual. You can choose from friendly, professional, witty, empathetic, whatever you want to do here, which is great. But there is a beta that everybody needs to know about, because this is how you take it to the next level, that HubSpot's calling it expression. But I want you to think about it as custom instructions if you're used to ChatGPT or Claude or projects or anything like that, because you can come in here and you can be like, hey, what's the tone, right? What's the response style? What's the scripted responses? What's the guardrails? And so you can now make this start to act and interact in like crazy ways. And now if you want to see what this looks like filled out, it might look something like this, where it's like, sound like a real human who is professional, upbeat, and caring. You might see something like this where it's like, who am I helping? If unclear, then yada. And so like you can, I think it's like 1,300 characters or 1,500 characters that you can put in these expression boxes to really hone the agent in the way that you want it to interact, and always ask a follow-up question, always ask qualifying questions, things like that. Then you have your knowledge, which is your content sources. So like Max said, the knowledge base, the website, the landing pages, your blogs, and you can upload files if you want additional context that shouldn't live on the site externally, but you want to add it to the brain of your customer agent. Not to mention you can add CRM data. So this is where you could literally be like, hey, I want to go ahead and like add some properties, because this can actually allow them to update properties. So like, hey, if you wanted them to be able to update their phone number or their email or 2 or 3 other properties, like you can add these pieces to that as well. You've got actions, which allows you to interact with like other, hey, let them go and actually pay this invoice because it's going to go through API or whatever. Channel settings that you have in here. Again, email, if you want to capture, emails for like lead generation, and then where you're going to deploy it. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but the other thing to note is you literally have a performance area where you can look at the last 7, 14, 30, 60, 365 days of how this agent that you're deploying and that you're customizing with these expression statements to really go out there and handle like a lot of the heavy lifting before it hands off to a human. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that I want to make sure I say here is like, can you use customer agent and never hand off to a human? Sure. Should you have something in place where this does 90, 85% of the heavy lifting and then hands off to a human? When you get somebody like me that it goes, talk to human, enter. Like, yes, you should.
Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah. And you kind of went over this like pretty quickly. I think the other thing too, to make sure everyone's like fully aware that it can do is like, it can make API calls.
Yeah.
Right. So like
the actions,
the actions, right? So like, for example, maybe you're some kind of software company and you have like a password reset process, right? Like you could trigger it through there. Maybe it needs to go find some data about someone's account. Like you can have it go do that, right? Like so long as you give it the right
e-commerce or orders, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not synced into HubSpot, but you could query out to a different database.
If you've ever chatted with your internet provider and you're like, oh, I want to like try to push a refresh to my router or whatever, like that kind of stuff, like it can do now, which is really cool. So long as you have the right internal systems for it to talk to, right? But it can make API requests, which is awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing too is in the knowledge area that I think we glossed over is if your knowledge base isn't on HubSpot, I mean, it should be, because you should be using Service Hub, because Service Hub is awesome. Now it's not just email inbox like it once used to be. If it's in Zendesk or something else, you can actually add external URLs and those URLs, associated URLs, as knowledge. So for example, it'll scan it weekly. Like if your knowledge base is on Zendesk, you give it the homepage and it'll scan up to 5,000 linked pages that are linked to that original page. It'll like go read the knowledge base and somewhere else, just at a web page.
And I want to make sure that I don't want the viewers to just think it should just be knowledge-based stuff. Like you can, and by the way, if you're on HubSpot, it'll automatically pull in your pages, pull in your landing pages. Like, because you have to think like every information that you have out there is additional context to the brain that you're building, because you're basically building a brain with this. And I want people to know if your website is external, you can give the system a link and it'll bring in your website information, even if it's external outside of HubSpot. So like it really is this idea of collecting all the information. But then what's real nice is once you've collected all the information into this area, you can go through and you can be like, oh, this piece of information that we created, that shouldn't be in the brain. Like the agent shouldn't talk about this. And so you can say, like a removal system once you get it all absorbed into that area. So it gives you the flexibility to really create the brain you need and train it how to communicate based on the brain that you've now given it. Liz, another question, or should we just move into like Breeze assistance or like... By the way, we probably could have done an entire episode on just the customer agent. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to do that? Like, do we want to, with like 8 minutes left, do we want to talk a little bit more about customer agent? Because there is something that I could hit on. And then we just talk about Breeze assistance and custom assistance next week.
That's what I think we're doing.
Okay. All right. Let me share my screen again. And then, guys, we'll end up landing the plane. But I want to make sure that we bring this up because it's a place that not a lot of humans go. And it really is a place that I would suggest that you go when you're kind of journeying into especially the customer agent. So you can go into the side panel here. You can go into product updates, and then you can just search by app and you can type in, I already have it selected, customer agent. And the reason I'm suggesting this is because one, you can go through and you can look at all the betas that you can invoke, but also you can take a journey, and whether it's the last 2 weeks, the last 30 days, or the 4 pages of updates that have happened to Customer Agent since it was born, you can spend time going through and invoking some of these things that we're talking about. So for instance, one of the things you're going to need to turn on is that expressions beta, right? And so being able to come in here and just, click on here and see like what it is, why it matters. And then if you do or do not need it, you can request the beta, or at least then understand how to use actions and API calls or build expressions and things like that. So definitely look at those updates to the customer agent if it's your day one of like, we're going to now use this. Updates, credits, agent. Gentlemen, lady, what is your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Oh, wow. We're in trouble.
I just feel like I'm now kind of glad we're doing a second episode, because why is it that every time we talk about something with HubSpot now, it takes us 2 episodes to get through it? I'm not talking about like our issues as a podcast. It's just like every time I try to wrap my brain around something that HubSpot has rolled out, I have this 1-2 punch reaction. Oh, okay. What? Like that is how I felt having so many of these conversations.
Yeah, and
I might have a little bit of context there.
Go, Chad.
I think the thing that used to happen with HubSpot features is they were rolled out with very limited minimal functionality. So it was very easy to discuss the intended use case. But practically, you would run into the wall of, I want to do this or that custom very, very quickly. And it wouldn't be useful for anybody who wanted to do anything even remotely outside of the intended happy path, as they call it in development, right? The flow that it was designed for. Now, I mean, it's not that HubSpot is complicated, but it has gotten very significantly more configurable. And that's what we're talking about, the long tail of all of the configuration options and why those configuration options matter. But like, to put it in context of like, oh, well, you could do this and add this expression. Well, why would you want to add the expression? We talk about it for 10 minutes. And then there's like 6 more things that you could configure. But it's really, really awesome in the long run, because you can just kind of use the boilerplate stuff. Like, what was really cool is when George was showing the expressions area, it says there's like a little AI optimize button. Like, all you do is type in like, I want it to do this and that and this. And then it puts it in a format that AI is good at reading. You don't need to be a rocket science to figure it out, but there is a lot of boxes to fill in. And it's because they're trying to make things, at least I feel, they're trying to make things more flexible out the gate.
Yeah.
But that's why it's taken us a lot longer.
Well, and I think yes to everything that Chad said. But Liz, what I would also say is that the way that I look at this is, if I look back at the beginning of this, HubSpot was like an email tool and a dumb blog with some keyword, like you could see keywords.
We don't need to call blogs dumb.
No, I know. I'm not calling the blogs dumb, but the tool was not the greatest of tool, but it was amazing.
They did have smart content
in 2012. I don't know if it had smart content in 2012. I think that came later. Anyway, HubSpot is all grown up. And what I will say is, we're also, as users, we're kind of spoiled, right? So when you think about this customer agent conversation, it didn't used to be as complex as what we were able to talk about today. There never used to be expressions, but we got spoiled because we started using ChatGPT and Claude, and we saw the experience that we could create if we could customize the instructions. And so how are you going to want us to use a tool that is externally facing and we can't micro fine tooth how it acts? And so here's what I'll say. There used to be a day where HubSpot would launch a feature. You would just go use the feature. Now HubSpot launches a feature, and you better have strategies and goals and psychology and systems and all the words to understand how do you want to now set up that tool in a way that it works specifically for your organization, for the humans that you're helping, because HubSpot has gotten to the point, and by the way, we're talking about AI today, but I would cut across the board, there is no vanilla HubSpot anymore. I used to be able to go and do a HubSpot audit and do a HubSpot audit and do a HubSpot audit. Yo, that ain't the world no more, because it's so configurable and adjustable, and you've got to get in there and get into the trenches. And so from my standpoint, but from the viewer, the listener, there's just a next level that you have to think to get the best out of the tool that they're launching for you to leverage.
Do you want to land the plane, George? Or are we already on the ground? I can't tell.
I think we're close to on the ground. Here's what I'll say. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that we would get through more than we got through today. So, you have
listen to our own podcast.
I know you have a broad, overarching understanding now of Breeze in general. We did do what I'd call a mildly deep dive, or at least giving you things to think about and places to go about Customer Agent. And I'm super excited to talk next week about custom assistants. I've had the ability to build multiple for clients. And so we'll give you next week some use cases. I'll talk about some things that we ran into, a system that I use when I'm actually creating these instructions. And so we'll go a little bit deeper. And so until then, we'll see you in the next episode.
Okay, Hub Heroes, we've reached the end of another episode. Will Lord Lack continue to loom over the community, or will we be able to defeat him in the next episode of the Hub Heroes Podcast? Make sure you tune in and find out in the next episode. Make sure you head over to thehubheroes.com to get the latest episodes and become part of the League of Heroes. FYI, if you're part of the League of Heroes, you'll get the show notes right in your inbox, and they come with some hidden power-up potential as well. Make sure you share this podcast with a friend, leave a review if you like what you're listening to, and use the hashtag HubHeroes Podcast on any of the socials, and let us know what strategy conversation you'd like to listen into next. Until next time, when we meet and combine our forces, remember to be a happy, helpful, humble human, and of course, always be looking for a way to be someone's hero.